Right, so on Saturday night, Tyson Fury dispatched of Dillian Whyte in relative ease in front of 94,000 paying fans at London's Wembley Stadium. And just as soon as that fight ended, it seems as though Tyson Fury's next fight was made, because Francis Ngannou stepped through those ropes into that ring and he conducted an interview with Tyson Fury, with ESPN. And it seems as though they both agreed to fight each other next. But will the fight actually happen? Let's talk about it. Before we do, my name is Rahul J. Chan. This is the Battle Camp. Thank you very much for joining me. If you're new to the channel, please do consider subscribing. So look, obviously I watched the fight on Saturday night, but it was on the UK broadcast. I watched the BT Sport coverage. So I was unaware that this interview happened. So on Sunday morning when I woke up with a bit of a hangover, I saw it on social media and I was a little bit surprised, because these two have been talking about fighting each other for the best part of a year. And the fact that Francis Ngannou was allowed in the ring and they did that interview together and Tyson Fury was the one that was kind of inviting it on, it kind of, I just wasn't expecting it, right? And then I saw Francis Ngannou speak to Ara Helwani on Monday's MMA Hour. And the way Francis Ngannou was expressing how serious this fight is between himself and Tyson Fury, he was giving the impression that, oh, this fight is definitely happening. It's on. The fight is definitely on. This is the fight that he's having next, by hook or by crook, right? And that took me back a little bit, aback. That took me by, what's the right word? That took me aback. That surprised me a little bit. Let's just say it that way, right? And I'll explain to you guys why. So first and foremost, what I want to say is, when it comes to Francis Ngannou, over the last couple of years, I feel as though he is the best fighter in MMA at deriving the most value out of his appearances in the media, right? Now, obviously, Francis Ngannou is in a unique position in terms of where he is with his contract, his stature within the heavyweight division, and this injury that he currently has, which is going to stop him from fighting again for the UFC, essentially, right? But I feel as though the way he played his cards in the build-up to his last fight against Cyril Gane, and then after the fight happened, the way he disclosed more information about what was going on behind the scenes, I feel as though from a strategic point of view, the way he played that 2 or 3 week period was spot on. It was perfect, right? And I feel as though when he is speaking in the media, he understands the repercussions and the value that his words might have in enabling him, that will enable him to reach the goals that he has in his mind. So in this instance, the way he's talking about a fight with Tyson Fury, I feel as though he is doing that in a deliberate way, because it's not just the fight with Tyson Fury, it's his leverage against the UFC, because he expressed in the very same interview that he wants to continue fighting in the UFC. But his priority is fighting Tyson Fury, right? So from my point of view, I really want Francis Ngannou to get this fight. I feel as though Francis Ngannou is a very intelligent man. Like, the more I hear him speak, the more I begin to understand just how kind of intelligent he is. And given his backstory and what he's been through, and the position he was put in during his last fight by the UFC, I feel as though he deserves something like this to happen to him, right? That's as a fan of Francis Ngannou and a fan of MMA and a fan that understands that, mixed martial artists, UFC fighters do have a genuine gripe with what they're getting paid by the organization. But also as a fan, I'm conflicted because, well, there's two reasons really. Firstly, I'm a fan of boxing. I love boxing. Although MMA is the primary combat sport that I watch, I pay attention to boxing. I'm a I'm a fan of the sport to the extent where I watch most big Saturday fight nights. And I watch every single pay-per-view. I paid for the pay-per-view on Saturday and I wasn't even home. I went to the pub to watch it. So either I've got too much money or I'm too stupid, but I'm a fan of the sport, right? The reason why I'm saying all of this is, one side of me wants to see Francis Ngannou get this opportunity and make all the money in the world, and the other side of me doesn't want to see this because I want to see Tyson Fury fight against the winner of AJ and Usyk. That's what I want to see Tyson Fury do next. So it's funny, right? I want to see, if you ask me what I want to see Francis Ngannou do next, is fight Tyson Fury. But if you ask me what I want to see Tyson Fury do next, it's fight AJ or Usyk, because I want to see an undisputed unified heavyweight champion of the world, right? I want to see an actual number one with no arguments and no complaints, right? But aside from all of that, I started this video asking the question, should I say, will this fight actually happen? And here's where I have my reservations. From Tyson Fury's standpoint, he's been vocal about wanting this fight. But I've watched Tyson Fury's career from when he was fighting in domestic British level fights, or actually he was on his way to try and become the British champion. So he wasn't even fighting at the British level. It was an entry level point in which I started watching him fight, right? And I've seen him grow into a European level fighter, into a world ranked fighter, into the champion of the world. And now he isn't just a champion of the world, he's an elite, all-time great fighter, right? And I have no issue with what he's able to do once he steps through those ropes. The problem that I've got is what comes out of his mouth when he steps back out of those ropes into the real world. Because from what I've gleaned from his personality over the last 10, 15 years, whatever it's been, is you can never take what Tyson Fury says for gospel, and anything that you do want to believe, you have to take with a pinch of salt, right? You can find any interview of Tyson Fury's online, whether it's 10 minutes or 3 hours with Joe Rogan. You'll hear him say things, and then I can find another example of an interview with Tyson Fury where he's saying the complete opposite. Now, initially, I thought, when I first started noticing this, I thought to myself, Tyson Fury is a guy that literally is too stupid to understand that these videos remain online. So you can go back and check his homework and say to yourself, hold on a minute, he said this 2 months ago and now he's saying this. Right? That was my initial view of Tyson Fury. But as I've kind of got to understand his character and his personality more and more, I genuinely think he's a man that just says and does things on a whim. And I genuinely believe he just doesn't care. He doesn't care what I think. He doesn't care what you think. And he doesn't care if people want to hold him accountable for his own words. He literally doesn't care. And the reason why I'm saying this is, if Tyson Fury says he wants to fight Francis Ngannou, I don't think that's enough for Francis Ngannou to go away and say, right, this is the guy that I'm fighting next. Because Tyson Fury says a lot of things. Sorry, my phone rang there and it stopped me mid-rant. But yeah, as I was saying, Tyson Fury says a lot of things. And Tyson Fury is quite happy to flip and flop between thoughts and ideas, right? So just the mere fact that he brought Francis Ngannou into the ring to stand next to him, to me, that doesn't mean shit. And until Francis Ngannou has a paper in his hand with terms and an agreement and Tyson Fury's signature on that piece of paper, then I feel as though this fight is far from getting made. Let me explain further. We all know that Tyson Fury is is managed by MTK Global, a company that is going to be disbanded at the top of the month because of their connections or alleged connections with alleged international cartel leader Daniel Kinahan, or should I say Daniel Kinahan. And because of that, Tyson Fury is going to be left without a manager, right? Now, aside from the fact that he's going to need to find himself a new management team, which I'm pretty sure is probably the easiest thing he's going to do, because the individuals that were managing him whilst working for MTK Global are probably going to be the same individuals managing him now, right? On paper, right? I'm going to get to the crux of all of this. Tyson Fury's deal with Top Rank is up. So he doesn't have a home in America in terms of a TV network or a promoter, right? So we basically got a man that is saying that he wants to fight Francis Ngannou. Francis Ngannou obviously is a free agent. He's not attached to a promoter or a company that can put up a load of cash to say, this is the deal, this is how the fight's going to go, this is where it's going to be broadcast, this is how much both fighters stand to make, this is the projections that we have in terms of sponsorship and pay-per-view buys, etc, 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 right? At this moment in time, neither of these two men have this, right? And if we're talking about an opportunity to have this fight in, I don't know, Saudi Arabia, where someone's going to put up some money, millions and obscene amounts of money for a site fee, the man that would be able to leverage this deal is Daniel Kinahan, the power broker, the most powerful man in boxing, who no longer can operate in boxing, who's had all of his assets frozen. So even if he wanted to clean some of his own money via this fight, he can't, because he can't touch his own money, right? So it's all well and good these two men sitting there saying that they want to fight each other, but where's the actual deal coming from? Who's structuring this deal? Houseway, I just don't know how it's going to happen, right? Now, don't get me wrong. Tyson Fury is a man that is in demand, right? So if his deal with Bob Arum is up, I'm pretty sure there's every single promoter under the sun will want a piece of Tyson Fury. And he is actually now in a position where he can call his own shots, right? He can say, no, I want to fight this guy. And yeah, I want to fight this guy. This is the fight that I want, right? But with my past experience watching Tyson Fury and understanding how he moves in the media and with other individuals and how he changes his opinion on a regular basis, his word isn't enough for me. For Tyson Fury, word is not bond, right? Aside from that, there's nobody else really behind the scenes talking about this fight, pushing this fight, giving it the pump, you know? So I don't know what the deal is. And if they're talking about millions and millions and millions and millions of the rocks of dollars, like, where's it going to come from? Just because Tyson Fury earned 30 million or whatever he supposedly earned against Dillian Whyte on Saturday night, just because the pot was that big for that fight, it doesn't mean that Francis Ngannou is going to be able to earn those sorts of figures fighting Tyson Fury. Because the truth of it is what are they fighting for? Like, don't get me wrong, I'd be interested in watching them fight. But as a fan of boxing, I want to see Tyson Fury fight the winner of AJ and Usyk. As a fan of MMA, I want to see Francis Ngannou fight John Jones. What I don't really care about is these two men stepping into a ring or an octagon, because we don't know what they're going to be fighting in. What are they going to be doing? Bare knuckles? MMA gloves? Are you allowed to kick? Like, what are the actual rule sets that nobody knows, right? And I'm not really excited about seeing these two fight in a bastardized version of both sports. What does it prove? What does it prove? You know, the only way that a fight between these two would actually get me kind of bloody hell is if Francis Ngannou won. Because whatever their variation of boxing stroke MMA that these two fight in, I feel as though it will just be heavily favoured for Tyson Fury, right? Because his discipline is boxing and boxing alone, whereas Francis Ngannou has multi-disciplines because he's a mixed martial artist, right? So I don't really care too much for a fight between the two because I need to know what the rule set is for me to get excited about it, right? I don't understand how this deal is going to come about and where all of these millions are going to come from, right? I feel as though both of these men have a misguided perception of what kind of revenue a fight between the two of them can generate. And if Tyson Fury stays boxing and he fights an AJ or Usyk, I'm pretty sure he'll comfortably make more money than he would fighting Francis Ngannou. Now, one thing that I can think of that would make it an attractive proposition to fight Francis Ngannou is his boxing record is unblemished, and going in there against Francis Ngannou would just be a bit of fun for him. It would be a good payday, and it would, if the unthinkable happens and he loses, he can just come out saying, "Oh well, I mean, it is what it is." But it's not boxing. He's still an undefeated boxer. He's still got a claim to stake as one of the best heavyweights that's ever lived, right? And the final thing that I want to add, sorry, I've gone on longer than I wanted to here. The final thing that I want to add is, with Francis Ngannou wanting to bring the UFC into this deal, and wanting to agree a deal with the UFC to continue his MMA career prior to him fighting Tyson Fury, that's a positive for me, right? Because if Francis Ngannou is to completely just walk away, fight Tyson Fury, lose, which I think will probably happen, then what? BKFC, Bellator, ONE FC, PFL, acting or a failed acting or movie career? Like, what does he do next? Right? And that's one thing that worries me, because I can't see him boxing. I can't see him boxing and being able to achieve the levels required to earn the money that he wants, or probably the money that he could probably earn staying in the UFC, right? Francis Ngannou is in a precarious position, and I just hope that they have a deal in place. I hope that all of this stuff that I've just raised in terms of a broadcaster, in terms of an agreement, where they're going to fight, where's the money coming from, I hope all of this stuff's already been ironed out. But I'm concerned. And if Francis Ngannou is left high and dry, and if AJ, for example, beats Usyk in June or July or whatever it is, Francis Ngannou is talking about fighting Tyson Fury in November or December. That's the time frame in which Tyson Fury would fight AJ, and that would be a mega fight. And that's a fight that I'd bet everything that I have that Tyson Fury would take over a Francis Ngannou fight, and that would just leave Francis Ngannou without a fight, without these millions of dollars that he's after, without a deal with the UFC. And it would kind of look like without anywhere to go apart from back to the UFC. And the leverage will be back with the UFC. So it's interesting, man. It's interesting to see what happens next. Let me know what you guys think. What do you think happens? Who do you want to see Tyson Fury fight? Who do you want to see Francis Ngannou fight? Let me know what you think about the points that I've made in this video. If you think I've missed anything, please feel free to comment it below. If you haven't already, please subscribe, like, share, all of that good shit. I'll catch you guys next time.